All right, we'll go ahead and call the Senate Appropriations Committee to order. First up, we've got the Department of Insurance, Commerce and Insurance.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I am Angela Nelson. I am the Acting Director for the Department of Commerce Insurance. This is my fourth day officially back. So hopefully we make it through the rest of this week and I have 1 week of success under my belt. Sitting with me this morning is Brenda Horstman. She is our Acting Division Director of Administration. We very much appreciate the opportunity to discuss our budget book and answer any questions that you may have. Just as a reminder, our department's core function is to protect the citizens and ensure fair marketplaces for the industries and professions we oversee. The department is organized into 9 divisions. An administrative division related to department operations. 3 divisions are related to insurance industry oversight. There is also the Division of Finance, which oversees our state-chartered banks and non-bank licensees. The Division of Credit Unions, which oversees our state-chartered credit unions. The Division of Professional Registration is responsible for supporting our professional licensing boards and commissions and overseeing the activities of Missouri's licensed professionals. The Public Service Commission regulates our investor-owned electric, natural gas, steam, water, and sewer utilities. And finally, our Office of Public Counsel represents the public and the interests of utility customers proceedings before the Public Service Commission. Just as a reminder, our department is 95% fee-funded, and only one division, the Office of Public Counsel, is operated by general revenue. And I believe, Mr. Chair, we've been asked to present on our new decision items and significant core changes. So with that, I will move to page 2 for the first new decision item.
Yeah. Okay, one quick question. Don't expect an answer now. Come up, a constituent show up yesterday dealing with insurance, told me whenever we were speaking that one of our large school bus providers, and Desi was in here yesterday,
Okay.
is considering leaving our state because of insurance issues, et cetera. Will somebody figure out whether there's any truth to that or not?
Absolutely, Senator. We'd be glad to take that back and take a look at it, find out where they are currently, and then find out if there's any other options, other carriers in the market.
It's one of the large contractors in our state discussing leaving our state because of not
Absolutely.
necessarily problems the
Right,
departments
right.
cause, but because of other things.
Right. We've
If
had.
that's true, it'd be helpful to know whether that's real or wild rumor.
Absolutely. And we know across the country there has been some tightening in the commercial auto liability space. So we'll definitely go back. We'll get some information from you, track down where they currently are, and find out if there's other carriers options in the market for them. We'd be glad to do that. Okay. All right. So on page 2, this is our new decision item, which is the governor's pay plan. The governor's pay plan would provide a 1% salary increase for every 2 years of continuous service, up to 10% for department employees, totaling, okay, thank you very much. We will turn to page 19. This is the governor's recommended salary increase for the Director of Commerce and Insurance. The next page is page 66, new decision item. This is the Family Trust Company transfer. This is legislation that was enacted in 2024, amending the Family Trust Company Act to move oversight of the Missouri Family Trust Company registrations from the Secretary of State's office to the Division of Finance. The division's responsibilities include processing and reviewing of registration filings and conducting examinations and investigations at intervals deemed necessary by the director. The division requested this appropriation as a transfer to the Finance Fund to cover the portion of salaries, fringe benefits, and expenses relating to the administration of the Missouri Family Trust Company Act. The division is not requesting any new FTE, PS, or E&E for this new responsibility. If there are no questions, I'll move to the next one, which is page 115. And this is a significant core change. This is to our State Board of Nursing under the Division of Professional Registration. Again, as a reminder, State Board of Nursing licenses and regulates our nurses here in the state of Missouri. The only change for FY 2025 core is to remove the one-time expenditure of $5 million of general revenue funding for the nursing education incentive grants. That's the only change. If there are no questions, I will move to the next page, which is page 122. This is another new decision item. Again, this is for our State Board of Nursing. These are, again, the nursing incentive grants. This allows the board to award up to $1 million in general revenue funding for competitive nursing grants to the institutes of higher education. If there are no questions, I will move to the next tab, which is on page 195. This is a new decision item for the Public Service Commission. This decision item is requesting additional PS authority to fill vacant positions. Currently in 2024, the PSC has 224 active cases, 18 large rate cases, which include rate cases because of legislatively enacted rate adjustment mechanisms. For comparison, in 2023, the PSC only had 9 of those large rate increases. As a result, the PSC needs to be able to fulfill our statutory obligations for rate case timelines and needs to match PS authority to the PSC's assessment to fill vacancies, which includes technical engineers, attorneys, auditors, and other regulatory staff. If there are no questions, I will turn to our last tab, which is on page 200. Again, another new decision item for the Public Service Commission. This decision item is requesting additional FTE, PS, and E&E authority needed for PSC to invest in securing Missouri's energy needs. The PSC recognizes that Missouri is facing a significant resource adequacy challenge, which roughly equates to the ability of the power system or the grid to meet demand. This request is for appropriation authority needed for the PSC to invest in securing Missouri's energy needs. The current challenges include anticipated electrical load growth due to economic development opportunities, manufacturing, as well as data centers for AI, extreme weather, federal regulations, including those aimed at reducing the amount of dispatchable generation available, market forces, and ensuring a diverse generation resource mix. PSC has evaluated how best to implement these new processes in the most cost-effective way possible to arrive at the staffing needs for this program. This program would be funded by the annual PSC assessment. If there are no questions.
Thanks so much. Any questions from the committee? Does not appear so. Appreciate it.
Thank you all very much.
Next up, we've got higher ed workforce development.
You ready? Well, good morning. I'm on. Good morning. Thank you. My name is Ben Boggs. I'm the Commissioner of Higher Education and Workforce Development. It's a pleasure to be with you this morning. Thank you for this time. With me, Deputy Commissioner Leroy Wade, who will walk us through the materials as you desire. Just a quick introductory comment. Our job at DUDE, as we call ourselves, is to create pathways for Missourians to learn, work, and prosper. We want to help situate Missourians to be ready for the workforce, for the changing economic and demographic and community needs across the state, and for our institutions of higher education to also be prepared to join in as partners. At the department, we have 2 boards, our coordinating board for higher education, which hires my position. We also have the State Workforce Development Board, which provides us with advice and guidance as we work with all the regional workforce boards across the state. So we are a complicated department in that manner. We're the only one that's integrated in this way in the nation. And it speaks to Missouri's foresight to see the connection between higher education and workforce. We know that by 2030, 65%, or currently 65% of all jobs in Missouri require something beyond high school. And so we want to set up pathways so that that's just normal, that our high school students understand it doesn't end at the high school diploma, but there's something more ready for you to prepare for your long-term future. So, and that's just going to grow. That 65% is going to just start at that and grow up from there. So we accomplish our work through financial aid programs. You'll be hearing about some of those. Fast Track's been enormously successful. We'd like to see more of that. We also do it through good academic policies. We do that in partnership and coordination with universities, with our coordinating board, to increase transfer and help with those other programs that focuses on the Missourian and help the person get through the process faster, more efficiently, and at lower cost. We do it through good data, helps us make good decisions. And with Merrick and our other database systems, even other state departments join in with us in terms of how do we make good decisions on behalf of our policies and on behalf of the state. So with that, we also have 22 job centers across the state. We also have 10 reentry centers that we do in partnership with the Department of Corrections. All of this is to help Missourians get on those pathways to be successful and of good service to the state. I'll stop there with that unless you have more questions, and invite Deputy Commissioner Wade to walk through the materials.
Okay. We'll go ahead and start. Again, you'll notice that there were, I think, 4 pages that were handed out to you, or 4 sections that were issues with our book, and the first one is the first one. Again, the one related to the state pay plan. Again, so there should be 2 of those. One was the regular pay plan was $233,540, and then the GR pickup one is $714,249. So again, I apologize. That data was entered, but when we printed the books, for some reason, it didn't print. So again, I'll just keep focusing on new decision items as we go forward. So the first one in the book is on page 23. That's the NDI for the MoExcel's Workforce Initiative. The department requested $33 million for this program. Again, this is a business and industry-related program providing institutions with funding to work together to increase, either expand existing programs or start new ones. The governor wanted to take a pause on this program, so he did not recommend this funding for this year, but we're hopeful that in 27 we'll come back and see that program restart. The next new decision item is on page 34. This is for a compliance auditor in our proprietary school certification division. That particular division licenses a wide range of institutions, post-secondary institutions that operate around the state of all different types, some degree granting, some very short term. One of the issues that we're facing is at the federal level, there's additional requirements that truck driving trainers have to meet, which is essentially that they have to comply with the state law where they exist. Based on the list that the federal government's given us, there are a large number, over 1,000 of those kinds of trainers in the state of Missouri that are currently, that we don't know much about, aren't licensed. And so we need to bring in some additional assistance here. Again, the governor recommended $65,602 for additional help in that. There's no FTE. This would be a contracted service. Next up is on page 37. That's our re-engagement initiative. We had requested a little over $3 million for this. Again, the initiative here would be to work with individuals, spotting individuals that have some college but no credential, getting them, working with them to re-enter post-secondary education and complete their degree. The governor did not recommend this item. Next up is on page 75. This is the 2030 re-entry program. Again, the commissioner mentioned our work with the Department of Corrections. This request that the governor put in was for $500,000 and 10 FTE. These FTE would be, and again, this is one that has a replacement page. There's no changes in the numbers. It was really just the heading that's different on that, but we wanted to be sure you had the most complete one. Again, it's titled Reentry 2030 Initiative. The one in your book has the right numbers, it just doesn't have the right heading. Anyway, this is to allow us to expand. We currently are in 10 correctional facilities providing job center related services to individuals as they get within 6 to 9 months of release. That way we help them with resume writing, connecting with individuals, doing job searches, those kinds of things. And so this would allow us to expand those services into all of the adult facilities in the state. Next up, we'll transition, I believe, into the student financial aid programs. And the first new decision item there is the NDI for the fast track program. Again, for most of our financial aid programs, there are two appropriations, and you'll see that here. One is for the transfer into the fund for that particular program, and then the second one is spending authority so that we can spend the money there. This first one on page 117 is the transfer authority. We had requested $5.3 million. The governor recommended $2 million. We've continued to watch this program, and again, we continue to see growth. Although the growth this year hasn't been as rapid as we had expected. And so we've relooked at our numbers, and we really do believe the $2 million will be sufficient for us to be able to fully fund that program. The next item is on page 126, and again, this is the spending authority increase as well. You can see corresponding amounts there as well for the program. Next up is on page 148. This is the Public Service Officer Program. This is a grant program for various kinds of individuals, firefighters, police, EMTs. There's some ambulance personnel as well that are covered by this. If they're killed or severely injured in the line of duty, this allows their spouse or children to be able to receive the grant through this program. This $113,000 increase is what we need in order to ensure that we continue to fully fund all eligible students.
So on the grant program, what's the difference in the amounts, the 5.3 and the 6 million? And then he recommended 2 and 2. Aren't these the same program?
They are. We usually require some additional spending authority because of the way that the state does its accounting. So when we award money to a student and then they turn out not to be eligible and that money comes back, we want to be able to re-spend that money. The way the state accounting system does that counts as $2 instead of just $1. And so we need some additional spending authority to allow us to re-spend those returns.
And we're giving these grants for workforce?
For the fast track program?
Yes.
Right, it provides it's tuition and fees. It's a last dollar tuition and fee program for individuals that are enrolled in studying in high demand, high need programs. It includes our community colleges, our four-year institutions, and institutions that are a part of the eligible training provider list.
Okay, thank you.
I think the next item up is on page 160. This is the Kids Chance program. Again, this pays for children of individuals that were killed or injured in a workplace compensatable event. We spend the interest from a corpus, $1 million corpus for this program. Because interest rates have been higher than they were for a while, we have additional interest that's been earned for this, and so this is additional spending authority to allow us to pay an additional student. Next up is on page 168. This is the Returning Heroes program. The department requested almost $1.4 million for this. The governor did not recommend it. Again, this is a program to reimburse institutions for tuition that's been waived under the state law. For undergraduate, the tuition's waived down to $50. At the graduate level, it's 30% of the normal rate.
Yeah, if I remember this one right, this has been on the books for a number of years, and was last year, the year before, the first year that we had actually tried to make those higher ed institutions whole?
The year before, yes.
All right. Yeah, thanks.
The next item up is on page 190. This is the Office of Workforce Development Spending Authority. Last year, you may recall that there was a lot of spending authority that was trimmed out. We're requesting for a replacement of this. Again, the additional spending authority, these are federal funds, but this would allow us to apply for and receive other grants to do additional kinds of things, or to respond to situations like an economic downturn or a natural disaster, allow us to respond relatively quickly. But it is.
How will this affect WIOA?
Well, again, it's not, this is the administrative side of things, and so this helps fund the work that the state does. Again, I think it doesn't affect WIOA, it affects our ability to reach out in additional
And
ways
get some
to
more
get
money.
additional grants.
Bring
those
in
kinds of
more
things.
money?
I'm sorry?
Bring in more workforce funding?
Exactly.
Is that's what this does? Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, I know that. Because of Julie, I'm a WIOA apprentice. All right, thank you.
You bet. The next item is on page 192. That's the indirect cost rate. Again, we had requested $900,000. The governor did not recommend this. This would have allowed us to change the way that we allocate funds across indirect costs from the federal grants that we receive. Next up is on page 195. This is the new decision item for youth work-based learning. This request for $1 million would allow us to expand work that we do in high schools and even into middle school to provide the students there with the opportunity for some work-based learning, be able to some apprenticeships, some paid internships, those kinds of things, to give them experience in the workforce while they're still in high school. But the governor did not recommend that funding.
Mr. Chair. On this funding, do we currently do this, or this is is this a request for more money or a totally new decision item?
It's new in the sense that it's general revenue. We do some of this work based on federal funding that we receive, but this would allow us to expand that work and provide more of those kinds of services and broaden those services, like I said, in high school.
Okay, thank you.
I think next up is on page 212. This was a request for an FTE in our Office of Performance and Strategy. Again, $80,000. The governor did not recommend this. Next up is on page 222. This is a corresponding Office of Workforce Development workforce program increase. This is spending authority that was reduced last year. Again, provides us with the ability to both piggyback on existing federal services and allows us to expand in that regard, but also to react to those kinds of situations that I described, whether it's an economic downturn or a natural disaster. Next up is on page 253. This is the deferred maintenance request that the department put forward for $27.1 million. Again, we all have heard the issues that are surrounding deferred maintenance on our college and university campuses. While this request wouldn't solve that problem, it would be at least a step in that direction, and perhaps if we can begin to put some funding in this area, at least make sure that deferred maintenance doesn't get any worse than it already is. Again, but the governor did not recommend this item. Up next is, now we're moving here, and I'll have to see how you all want to proceed. First, the last of your correction pages, on page, what in the book is 256, there's a community college appropriations replacement page. For some reason, when we printed this, the governor's recommendation did not come through for this core item. But again, the governor did recommend the 178 million. That is the core amount. So I just wanted to make that clear. At this point, we go into the core increases. So I'll start with the community colleges. Again, the department had recommended a 3% increase. That was the inflation rate at the point we were putting this together. That would be 5.3 million increase for community colleges. The governor recommended 1.5% increase, which would be 2.6 million. The next item is, I believe, is on page 276, looks like. That's the CPI increase for State Technical College of Missouri. Again, the same situation. We requested 3. The governor recommended 1.5. The next item up, they have, this is again for state tech, is an increase of their debt offset. Again, debt offset is their ability to intercept someone's income tax return for a bill owed to that institution. And so they had requested a spending authority increase of $2,000 for their debt offset. Next up is on page 288. This is, now we're starting the four-year college increases. Do you want me to go through each of these individually? Right, they're all exactly the same, 3% recommendation, 1.5%. The only other ones I would mention, there are two in here. One is on page 290. That's a debt offset increase for University of Central Missouri of $100,000. Again, that was recommended by the governor. And then on page 311 is a corresponding increase for Missouri State University of $50,000 for their debt offset. With that, the only remaining one is for the State Historical Society. Let me back up. For the one, the governor, there were three separate ones. It's on page 422 is the first one, the State Historical Society. The governor, we had requested, or actually this is a pass-through, the State Historical Society had requested $120 million to provide a 3.4% increase for their existing staff. The governor recommended $86,200 for that. The other two new decision items for the Historical Society, which was for additional FTE, $255,000, that's on page 425. And then on page 428, a request for equipment were not recommended by the governor.
So remind me if we did the 3% that you all requested, tell me the difference. How much, what does it cost us, 20 million? Is it that much?
No, it's about, the total increase was about, as I recall, was 27 million, I believe, either 23.
Your request or the governor's recommendation?
Our request was, and so.
Okay. So maybe 13-ish?
Right.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. The next book I've got is the General Assembly, right?
That's correct.
All right, whenever you're ready, Adam.
Just to identify a few people in the room, I know you all know our Center Administrator, Patrick Baker. The new Chief Clerk, Joseph Engler, is sitting in the back here. Some of the Joint Committee members, the directors are here. Julie Moore, I've seen her. Kevin Gwaltney is Education. The Retirement Committee is Robert Coleman. And the reviser of statute sets is Matt Morris. I think those are the, oh, and Jay Carr is Sarah Shappy. I don't think, a couple of them could not be here today. The only new decision item in the General Assembly's book is on page 5, and that is the pay plan for Senate employees, your staff, House employees, representative staff, the Joint Committee staff members. That is the salary increase for those employees. It's the same as what you've heard in all the departments about the pay increase. And there were a couple one-times that were cut out. Those were on page 82, and that was within the House of Representatives, and then on page 124 and 129 pertaining to the Capitol Commission and the Capitol itself, the building, funding for that. The pay increase for the state employees, the members of the General Assembly are not included in that. However, to refresh your memory, the members of the General Assembly is tied to the last Citizens Commission that was approved in 2020. And if you recall, there was 2.5% pay increase for fiscal year 22 and 23. And then the report said if there was no new Citizens Commission report approved, then the salary was tied to the judges. So in fiscal year 24 it was 4.1, fiscal year 25 it was 4.6. And for fiscal year 26, the judges are set to get about a 1.7% increase. And theirs increase is tied to the federal judges. You have, yes. The Senate implemented
It's just such a
those
nominal amount, you haven't
July
noticed it.
1st.
That's the deal.
So yes, you have received those, Senator.
Thank you.
Right.
I don't know how hot this microphone is there, Senator Black, so not everybody heard that. Any other questions from the committee?
This concludes our department budget presentations.
I might have had a question, Adam.
What's that, yes, sir?
So I've noticed under the governor's recommendations that, and correct me if I'm wrong, almost all of his either directors or commissioners have received pay raises on top of the 1%.
There are a handful, yes, that have increases on top of the general state
Right.
pay increase. Correct.
But am I also right that that our directors in the General Assembly have not received any sort of additional compensation right now?
not on top
Like what
of
I'm just for the committee, what I'm getting at here is, the executive, and it's fine, whatever it's his recommendation, has taken kind of an approach above and beyond what the statewide pay plan increase is, and given additional raises or recommendations of raises for his department heads. And I don't know if I'm just tossing it out there for the committee that we may want to have a conversation about taking care of our people also, and that's the House and the Senate. But not Patrick. But other than that. Sorry, Patrick.
Definitely not
I'm
Patrick.
kidding, Patrick.
Definitely not Patrick.
Any other questions for Adam before we cut him loose? Joe, thanks for being here.
just
Yeah. Senator Fitzwater.
On the Citizens Commission on the pay plan for legislators, they still have the authority to meet and make recommendations, but now it's just tied to this pay bump with the judges. Like, what's
correct, because there is not the most recent Citizens Commission that was sent forward by that committee that does that, and the General Assembly has to disapprove
Yeah,
it.
I
right?
remember all
Yes.
that.
So the last one on file is for fiscal year 2020. And as I said, in fiscal year 22 and 23, it was 2.5 each year. And then after that, there was a paragraph put in there that says for fiscal year 2024 and subsequent years after that, if there was no new report issued, then the salary of the General Assembly was tied to the judge's increase.
Okay, thanks. Yep.
So we were done with department budget presentations. Yesterday, you might have noticed that House Bill 14, the supplemental, was read in the first time for the Senate. Next week, we will have a hearing on the supplemental House Bill 14 to try to get that Tuesday, if it gets referred. I believe it will. And then to try to get that out of the General Assembly before spring break.
Yeah, so the plan might, what we're working on for Tuesday would be have the hearing on the bill and vote it out on Tuesday, because we've already had it presented. Dan Hogg, if you guys remember, presented that bill to us a couple weeks ago. I think that'll conclude the hearing, Adam. You good?
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? Does not appear so. That will conclude the hearing on appropriations this morning. Thanks, folks.